Thank you so much, Samos, for speaking to us.
It's a pleasure.
It's an absolute honor. It's great to see you here, and I have to start by asking you, when you look around and you see these people and the cars and just the kind of atmosphere and excitement,
well,
what does that mean to you?
This is what the atmosphere that you get with historic cars. The people are not necessarily old, but the cars are. And of course now you look at these cars, they're probably 10 times better than they were when they were new. But it's lovely to come here and meet like people, you know. I mean, we all have the idea of this is a nice sport to be connected with, and so it's always great to come here.
What are some of the? It's an unfair question to ask because I've got all these different achievements of your career in my head, but what are some of the big milestones that stand out for you?
Well, the races are quite different, but I suppose the Mille Miglia is probably my greatest overall type of thing, and the Monaco in 1961 is another one, also Nürburgring of that year, but remember I drove 108 different cars in 590 odd races, so it's quite a big selection.
And the most difficult car for you to drive in
terms
of
the most difficult
controlling
car,
it?
Yeah, the most difficult was certainly the BRM, which stood for British Racing Motor, which was a disaster. I mean, it was never was successful and should never have been built, but if you ask the worst, that is it.
And, you know, I mean, the Monaco race, for example, things are so different today as far as racing is concerned, just the kind of electronics you have on a car. Back then it was all about how much you could get out of the car, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Purely, I mean, it was down to the driver. And the races in those days, remember, were 3-hour minimum. And Monaco was 3 3/4 hours, but it was the driver and the car, and I think if you have a really great driver like Fangio, he's probably worth 25 or 30% of the winningness of the car. Now, the very best driver in the world, however good he is, only contributes probably 5 or 6% because the cars are so good.
Do you still follow it as keenly though? I mean,
Oh yeah, not as keenly obviously as when you're driving, but I mean certainly I still follow Formula One. It is interesting rather than exciting.
Do you get a chance to see or experience any of the cars that you used to drive? Do you have any of them with you now?
No, I do have an RS61 Porsche, which I drove in 1961, of course. I'm not racing it at the moment because I retired when I was 82. I thought probably that's long enough, so I've now got them and I'm keeping them because they're worth more to me as they are in my care than selling them.
How often do you get to just you in a car? How often do you get to do that these days?
On a circuit, you mean, and enjoy the car?
Yeah, on a circuit.
Oh, only once or twice a year, maybe. Very, very rarely.
And out on the open road?
Oh, on the open road, I try different cars whenever I get the opportunity. You know, if a manufacturer brings out something, say, try this, I'd certainly do that.
Anything specific that you've driven, let's say, recently that really impressed you, that you like what they've done?
Not specifically I can think of like that, but the great thing you've got to realise is that cars today, even the worst car is still quite good by comparison to old ones, you know.
Which is not how it used to be.
Not at all. I mean, there were cars that were so bad that you wouldn't want to drive them. Now, if you're talking road cars, I really have a job to think of, oh God, that's an awful beast. There aren't many.
That's true. But, you know, what we've also seen is a resurgence of the British brands.
Yes.
They're all doing really well, you know, from a market point of view, but also from a product point of view. They're sort of really holding their own now. You've seen even McLaren coming out with the MP 412C. Is that encouraging for you to see that resurgence?
I think it's terrific. I mean, obviously the McLaren is a very special vehicle and it's only ever going to be sold in 1s and 2s, you know what I mean? But to see that technology going around and it being British technology, that's very good. I mean, we have developed, one thing you've got to remember is every car in the world now, I think I'm right in saying, has disc brakes. Yeah. Those disc brakes were developed by Jaguar and Dunlop, including and the guy, their engineers, and I helped with it. And that is, to me, something of which I'm very proud because it's very, very, very important.
How do you view today's Formula One driver? I mean, do you think these guys are? Of course, everybody wants to win. But how do they approach it? Do you think they approach it the same way you used to?
No, I don't. Nothing like the same. But the point is, it's just such a different. It isn't a sport anymore. It's a business, a very good business, beautifully run, and the drivers drive well and all that. But it isn't. It used to be a sport, and obviously you can't make a thing that was the real business into a sport again. It doesn't happen.
As I mentioned to you, I've come in from India, and it's a part of the world where many of our people are now waking up to motorsport. It's
Yeah.
not something that we've
Yeah.
always had, but it's exciting. Do you think it's nice to see that motorsport is getting popular in parts of
Oh,
the world
I
where it
think it's
wasn't?
wonderful. I mean, India, you've got what 300 million people or something. Or
Oh, more, a whole lot more.
Oh well, anyway,
About 1.2
anyway,
billion.
really. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going over to join them for a thing of the Maharajas in February next year, I think. But no, I certainly look forward to going over there.
And we have our own Grand Prix now.
Yes,
so-
of course you do,
Yeah.
and your own team. You know, and Force Injured. I mean, they're doing very well, very well.
And of course, they are again headquartered at Silverstone, so they have a
Yeah.
British connect too.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
But have you ever driven in India at all? Have you been to India?
I have been to India, and I haven't driven that much. It's a bit different to at home, but
It is.
nevertheless,
Challenging too.
Exactly. Enjoy it. Enjoy it over there very much.
One last question, sir, before I let you go. If you had to go back and do it all over again, I'm sure you're going to say you'd do it all over again, but
Yeah.
is there something you'd do differently?
Well, the only thing I'd do differently is, if I could, that is not crash when I was 32 years old. So here I am, 32 years old, and everything I knew was now not usable. So I had to work for a living, and I didn't really know what to do. So that's the only thing I'd change.
So it's been an absolute pleasure. Just your career, watching you, and getting to meet you today.
Thank
Absolutely
you very
an
much.
honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
India's #1 news app. Just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for Retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.